ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ See verse 53. व्यक्त्यनुल्लेखमात्रेण भ्रमत्वे स्वर्गधीरपि भ्रान्तिः स्याद्व्यक्त्यनुल्लेखात् सामान्योल्लेखदर्शनात्. So Vidyaranya is dealing with Paroksha Jnanam of Brahman. And well, first he talked about two types of aparokshatva. First is a swabhavik aparokshatva of Brahman, by swabhava, by nature, self-evident, etc. Second is a jnata aparokshatva. And that jnata aparokshatva means what? Jnatam means basically known. What is known? Aparokshatva, directness. So known directness means direct knowledge, aparoksha jnanam. So jnata aparokshatvam is nothing but aparoksha jnana. Anyway, so he talked about both these types of aparokshatvam. And then he says this paroksha jnanam removes sattva avarana. Sattva avarana. Avaranam it removes. So means sattva avarana nivrutti takes place by paroksha jnana. And bhana avarana nivrutti takes place by aparoksha jnana. That also we discussed. And having talked about this twofold function of a paroksha jnanam and aparoksha jnanam, now he takes a small diversion. And it is regarding a paroksha jnanam of Brahman. And he wants to clarify what is this paroksha jnanam, because many acharyas don't accept, etc. So he wants to clarify this paroksha jnana, regarding paroksha jnana. And what is paroksha jnanam of Brahman? Brahma asti is a paroksha jnanam. Whereas aparoksha jnanam is what? Brahma asmi, aham asmi. That is aparoksha jnanam. So question is, this Brahma asti, is it a bhranti, error, or is it a jnana? Well, so that's a question. Vidyaranya wants to establish this paroksha jnanam is not Brahma, bhranti. Paroksha jnanam is a jnana, basically. It is not a Brahma. And to establish that, well, he has raised the Purvapaksha. And he is asking as though to a Purvapakshi that paroksha jnanam is, if it is a Brahma by your view, then what reasons could you give us for calling this paroksha jnanam as a Brahma? And Vidyaranya himself gives now 4 reasons in order to prove paroksha jnanam is not jnanam but Brahma. And that's what we were discussing. We have discussed, in fact, 2 of the Purvapaksha's these arguments to tell paroksha jnanam as a Brahma. And then with that refutation also we have seen. I will just remind you. The first thing is, well, if you say, well, this paroksha jnanam is a Brahma asti is a paroksha jnanam. You can call it as a Brahma when it is negated later. Right? So Brahma Asti, that Jnanam is called Brahma should be negated by what? What type of a cognition? Brahmanasti. Brahma asti, if it is a Brahma, then I can call it as a Brahma because now I gain knowledge that there is nothing called Brahman. So Brahmanasti. So Badhyamanatvat. If I can negate it, then definitely Brahma asti, such a Paroksha Jnanam can be called Brahma. But he says Brahma nasti. Well, that cannot be said by even a Jnani also. So Brahma asti cannot be negated. Can never be negated, let us say. And therefore, because Jnani also says there is no Brahman, means he negates himself. Jnani knows he is Brahman. So where is the question of negation? So Brahman asti is never possible. If that is not possible, Brahma asti, well, it is not negated. If it is not negated, how can you call it as error? It is a jnanam, right? So this is a snake, well, is negated by this is rope. And therefore, well, that we call it as error. But this is not negative. And therefore, Brahma asti is this is a first argument. Well, Brahma asti is a Paroksha Jnanam, it is not Brahma. Okay. Then second, this first Purvapaksha and the answer we have already seen. The second also we have seen, I will remind you. So Purvapakshi may argue that when we get this knowledge, Brahma asti, etc., we have that as Samanya Jnanam. We don't have the Vishesha Jnanam. And so non-specific reference to Brahman is there. General knowledge means what? Brahma asti. There is Brahman. Means it's a non-specific reference. There is Brahman, that's true. But then what is that Brahman? He doesn't say anything. So there is a non-specific reference to this Brahman. And he uses the word Vyakti Anullekha. See, Ud plus Lik dhatu is there. Means to refer to. Ud plus lik, ullikhati, means to refer to. So ullekha means a reference. Anullekha means not referring to, no reference. Of what? Vyakti. Vyakti means a specific entity, right? So non-reference to a specific entity is called Vyakti Anullekha. So this is you are not referring to a specific thing. That Brahman is this, or Atma, Aham, etc. If you are not referring to that like that, well, you just say Brahma asti. Well, then that is a Brahma only. That's what Purvapakshi says. So, Vyakti Anullekha Matre. So, he says that. And we can give an example like when we travel in air, etc. Sometimes they get a bomb threat, etc. Right? And so the security people, well, definitely, they want to verify. So they know that this all baggage, suppose they have somebody has alerted them that in particular bag that may be a bomb, etc. So first what they have a knowledge, the security people have a knowledge that all these baggages belong to traveler. General knowledge, right? But a specific bag belongs to a specific person, they don't know. Just take it like that. No, Swamiji, they know everything. But take it like this. So, basically then they come, they announce that whatever the baggages are there, whoever has to claim their own baggage, please claim it. So, everyone comes in front and says, well, this is my bag, this is my bag. Now, the security people know specifically that this bag belongs to this person. Earlier, they have a general knowledge. What? That is all baggages belong to the traveler. Naturally, that knowledge they have. But they don't know the specific belongs to a specific person. So, well, this is called a specific reference, right? Specific entity. If it is not there, these bags belong to a traveler. That knowledge we call it as a Purvapakshi says, this knowledge we call it as just a Brahma. We can't call it as a Brahma. Because the baggages belong to traveler is also a knowledge. If you say the baggage belongs to traveler is a Brahma, means the baggage itself is a Brahma. Or traveler is a Brahma. Either. So that is not a correct thing. So Brahma asti, well, definitely is Vyakti Anullekha Jnanam. Vyakti Anullekha. Anullekha Jnanam means, well, you are not referring to Brahman as the self or as these or etc. So that is Vyakti Anullekha Jnanam. And whereas I am Brahman is Vyakti Ullekha Jnanam, right? That Brahman is me. So you are specifically referring the Brahman as the self. So Purvapakshi says this Vyakti Anullekha Jnanam Brahmasti is called Brahma. Vidyaranya says, well, you cannot call like this. If all general knowledge is like a Brahma, then there is a particular island in a Pacific Ocean or something, you can come to know, like a Zinzuba or something. Some you come to know through some book or through news, etc. And you have just a general knowledge. You don't know where actually it is located in the Pacific Ocean and how, what is its area, etc. And whether people live there or not. Nothing you know. You just know that, well, this there is a particular island in a Pacific, and they are there. Even if you don't know the name, you and me know that there are certain islands in the ocean. Well, so this is general knowledge. And this is a Paroksha Jnanam, definitely. Paroksha Jnanam of island, because it is not Pratyaksha to me. So in that case, will you call this Paroksha Jnanam of island as a Brahma? If a Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge of a island is a Brahma, means island is a Brahma. There is nothing such a called island in Pacific Ocean, we have to say that. But that's not the case. So you can't call Paroksha Jnanam, like I was just asking. And then there is a Freedom Tower in in New York earlier, which is WTC. Yeah. So, well, that Freedom Tower right now, frankly speaking, there is a Freedom Tower. That much I know. I don't know where exactly it is located in New York. Also, that also I don't know, and other details also I don't know. There is a Freedom Tower in New York. Now, this is general knowledge, and it is a Paroksha Jnanam. And if you call Paroksha Jnanam as a Brahma, when the general knowledge of a tower is a Brahma, means the Jnana Vishaya, the object itself is a Brahma. Therefore, if you say Sarpa Jnanam is a Brahma, means Sarpa is a Brahma. Then only Sarpa Jnanam becomes Brahma. So this is what. Therefore, Paroksha Jnanam cannot be a Brahma. So far as suppose you ask me regarding a Hindustani music or Carnatic music, I can tell you there are ragas. Like Malkaunsa is there and Bhairavi is there and Hamsadvani in Carnatic is there, but that's all. Now, if you ask further, I don't have any idea, right? And therefore, if Paroksha Jnanam of such a ragas are there, which is you call it as a Brahma, means such a ragas are not there at all. Well, that is not the case. So, Vyakti Anullekha Matrena, just because of absence of a identification. Ullekha means referring to a Vyakti Anullekha. Vyakti Ullekha means identifying, right? So, just Vyakti Anullekha Matrena, just because of an absence of an identification, if you claim that such a knowledge is a delusion, well, then Svargadihi api Bhrantihi syat. Well, general knowledge of a Svarga, etc., general knowledge of this Punya Papa, everything, Devatas also, Lokas, all which you are gaining from the valid source, Veda, well, that becomes Brahma. And that is an insult to the Veda itself. The Veda is a Pramana. Pramana gives a knowledge to you about regarding all this, right? And if you call such a Paroksha Jnanam of a heaven, etc., is a Brahma, then the knowledge which is generated through that source itself is a Brahma. Well, that you will not accept. And so he says, Svargadihi api Bhrantihi syat. Svargadihi, Svarga Jnanam, general knowledge of this Svarga, etc., will be Bhrantihi syat, because Samanya Ullekha Darshanat, because you have a general they are generally referred to you that there is Svarga, there is a Devata, there is a Punya Papa, etc. Well, that Samanya Ullekha Darshanat means here it is a general reference to Svarga, etc. Well, that becomes Brahma, that you will not accept. Therefore, Paroksha Jnanam is a general knowledge, and therefore it is Brahma, cannot be accepted. Okay, now let's go to verse number 54. Now, third argument he gives to prove Paroksha Jnanam is Brahma, which is very powerful. This is most important. So, what he says now, see. Aparokshatva yogyasya na parokshamatir brahmaha parokshamityanollekhat arthat paroksha sambhavat. This is a very, very nice argument. Of course, we will refute it, but he is very intelligent. He says, when you say paroksha jnanam of a Brahman, you indirectly is telling me that Brahman is paroksha. So, knowledge of something which is indirectly available. When I say I have a paroksha jnana of a freedom tower, means freedom tower is indirectly available to me at this moment. If freedom tower is directly perceived through my eyes, I would not call it as a paroksha jnanam of a freedom tower. So paroksha jnanam of a given thing proves, well, that the vastu, that object is paroksha. And therefore, so paroksha jnanam conveys such an idea that object is away, not directly available. That is a message. Remoteness of the object is conveyed by paroksha jnanam. So Purvapakshi says Brahman is, well, you say paroksha jnanam of Brahman, well, then remoteness of Brahman you are indirectly conveying. And well, if Brahman which is aparoksham, you are only going to say, yes, sakshat, aparokshat, Brahma Upanishad says that. So Brahman which is intimately available, in fact closer than any other thing, and therefore remoteness of intimately available of Brahman is what? He is asking us. He is basically, making a joke out of us. So remoteness of intimately available Brahman. What is this? Please explain us. So, because Brahman is basically closer than even a sthula sharira, sukshma sharira, I mean, closer than even a thought. It isn't just in the form of an eye. So, talking about this remoteness of a most, close Brahman is Brahma. Beautiful argument. This is just wonderful. When you say, so remoteness of the paroksha jnanam is remoteness of the Brahman, which is in fact by nature it is a paroksham. Well, that is Brahma. So that's what he says. Aparokshatva yogyasya. Brahman is aparokshatva yogya. Brahman is fit for aparokshatvam, not fit for parokshatvam. And therefore, well, basically, paroksha jnanam of such a Brahman, which has a status of aparokshatvam, is considered as a Brahma. I will give you another example. Right now, up to almost 11:30, well, a parokshatvam of you, if I talk about, well, it is Brahma. Right? You are indirect. You are indirect to me, remote to me. If I say it is a Brahma. At least for up to, so you have a aparokshatva status up to 11:30. And at that time, you have a aparokshatva status right now. And if I talk about a paroksha jnanam of all of you right now, that is Brahma only. So he is very much right. Aparokshatva yogyasya parokshamatihi Brahma. Parokshamatihi, paroksha jnanam is called Brahma. So na is there in the first line. You have to take it in the second line. Vidyaranya says na. Well, no, that's not the case. Paroksham iti anullekhat. When a person gains a knowledge of Brahman from scriptures and he says Jagat Karanam Brahma, well, Yatova imani bhutani jayante, etc., etc. So there is a Brahman which is Jagat Karanam. He does not call the person who gains the knowledge that Brahma asti, Jagat Karanam Brahma asti, he does not call that jnanam as a paroksha jnanam. Because it is not there in student's mind. Parokshatvam, aparokshatvam does not arise in student's mind. Acharya tells that this person who is telling that there is a Jagat Karanam Brahma is paroksha jnanam. Whatever student has right now, that there is a Jagat Karanam Brahma is paroksha jnanam. Because Acharya knows that this person, when I will expose him to this Mahavakya, then he will say that I am Brahman. That is a aparoksha jnanam. And therefore, in Acharya's mind, right now, whatever the student has, that knowledge, piece of knowledge, that Brahman is Jagat Karanam Brahmasti, etc., Jagat Karanam Brahmasti, that is paroksham. Student doesn't say that. Students say this is a knowledge of Brahman. And therefore, well, they give an example. like when they dig certain soil, etc., and they get a coins of 100 BC, they say. Well, we ask them, how do you prove that these coins belong to 100 BC? Well, they themselves have written that this coins belong to 100 BC, because people who were living in before Christ, before 100 years of Christ, they were using coins. They were not showing that, they were not telling that we are using right now 100 BC coins, right? So the people who were living before, 100 years before Christ, and they were using coins. They were not saying this is a 100 BC coin. But the people who came later, after Christ was born, those people say that they were using the coins of 100 BC. Clear? And so, well, definitely, this student, when he gains this knowledge that there is a Jagat Karan, Brahma, etc., he doesn't say this paroksham, aparoksham, etc. Veda Pramana has introduced this, to the student, of course, through the teacher, that there is a Jagat Karan Brahma. It is simple jnanam without any frills, basically. And so later when he gets exposure to this Mahavakya, etc., well, it is going to be a Paroksha Jnanam. And then previous one is named as a Paroksha Jnanam. So, very beautiful argument. Paroksham iti anullekhat. Student does not deliberately refer to the piece of knowledge called there is Brahman, Brahma Asti, Jagat Karan Brahma Asti. Such a piece of knowledge has not been referred by the student as Paroksham. And therefore, but if student does not refer it as a Paroksha Jnanam, why do you call it as a Paroksham? Arthat. Beautiful. Arthat means through Arthapatti Pramana, through implication, through presumption, etc. Well, you give a title Paroksham. So there is no deliberate application of a word Paroksham. By implication, if later knowledge is going to be Aparoksham, in terms of I am Brahman, when he is exposed to the Mahavakya, etc., well, the previous one automatically, by implication, becomes Paroksham. Clear? And so, right? And therefore, well, this Paroksha Jnanam is possible. Sambhavat. Sambhavat means it is possible to give such a status to the piece of knowledge called Brahmasti, Jagat Karan Brahmasti. To such a piece of knowledge, we can give a status of Paroksham. Clear? So, Paroksham iti anullekhat arthat. Arthat means by implication, arthapatti pramanena, Paroksha Sambhavat. Paroksha Sambhavat means the status of a Paroksham. That's called Paroksham. Sambhavat. Well, it is possible to give such a status. Paroksham status is possible to give by implication. Okay. What is now the fourth one? Amsha grihiter bhrantisched gatagyanam brahmo bhavet niramshasyapi samshatvam vyavartyamsha vibhedatah. This is also very beautiful. See, Purvapakshi says now, this is a fourth final argument. Purvapakshi says when person gains a knowledge, Brahma Asti, well, it is very true that he gains this knowledge through the Veda Vakya, through Upanishad Vakya, Yatova imani bhutani jaya, then many more are there. Tasmad va etasmad, etc. In Chandogya also it is there. Everywhere Jagat Karanam Brahmasti has been introduced by the Upanishad. So this is Veda Pramana has given this knowledge, Paroksha Jnanam, called Brahmasti, etc. But you see this. In Upanishad, this much is not enough regarding Brahman. Same Upanishad, same Pramana talks about something more. Nityam, Shuddham, Buddham, Muktam, etc. All this regarding Brahman, they say. This person doesn't say that. This person says Brahma Asti, Jagat Karan Brahma Asti. So it's an incomplete knowledge. Such a Paroksha Jnanam is incomplete, basically. And if incomplete knowledge, we will call it as a Brahma. Now, this is the fourth argument. So, Brahma Asti, well, he says, he tells something differently. Brahma Asti means there is existence of Brahman. Means Sat Amsha of Brahman is known to him. Satchidananda, out of that, Sat Amsha of Brahman is known to him. But Chit Amsha of Brahman is not known to him. क्या बात है? Chitamsha or Brahman is known to him. It's not known. Why? Why it is not? Chit means what? Consciousness. If Brahman is consciousness, if he says, and still he exclude himself, is not possible. Why it is not possible? Because I am a conscious being. When you say Brahman is consciousness, then definitely you will have to tell that I am Brahman. And I mean, any piece of knowledge, one thing never goes. What doesn't go? I am conscious of. I am conscious of will never go. I am conscious of words. I am conscious of touch. I am conscious of this. I am conscious of even the senses. I am conscious of the mind. I am conscious of various thoughts. I am conscious of. Whether a piece of knowledge belongs to perception or a piece of knowledge belongs to paroksha jnana. Any piece of knowledge, I am conscious of never goes. Therefore, I is this consciousness, and which never goes, means it is all the time there, it is Satyam. And therefore, if he knows that Brahman is existent, Sadamsha is known, and Chidamsha is known, then he definitely says, I am Brahman. He has to tell that. And therefore, he says, he has a Paroksha Jnanam Brahma Asti. So there is existence of Brahman. Sadamsha of Brahman is known, but Chidamsha of Brahman is not known. Well, then it is Brahma only. It is Brahma. So he has got a partial knowledge, and therefore we call it as a delusion. So in Paroksha Jnanam, Brahmanaha Sadamshaha Jnataha, Brahmanaha Chidamshaha Na Jnataha. So Vidyaranya says, well, if incomplete knowledge is a delusion, then every knowledge is a delusion. Whole science is a delusion. Everything is a delusion. Every branch of knowledge is a delusion. Because no knowledge of ours is complete, right? If science, science is progressing, every moment they are progressing and getting a new piece of knowledge, right? New information they are getting. That shows that they have an incomplete knowledge. And if incomplete knowledge is a Brahma, then the whole science is a Brahma. Economics is a Brahma. Every piece of knowledge, anything which is taught in a universities, I mean any vidya, any faculty of knowledge is Brahma, because it is incomplete. That's what that's a result of your conclusion. It becomes Brahma, and therefore, and if it is a Brahma, means it becomes non-existent. Anything Brahma is non-existent. Sarpa is a Brahma. Sarpa Jnanam is a Brahma. Means Sarpa is non-existent. Then only you can call Brahma. Therefore, if incomplete knowledge belong to various branches of knowledge, is all incomplete, and therefore they are Brahma, means they are non-existent. Therefore, there is no science, there is no economics, there is no. What is this? This is a crazy thing or what? So, Amsha Agrahitehe Brantihi Chet. Amsha Agrahitehe. Bhranti means Paroksha Jnanam Bhranti hi Chet. If Paroksha Jnanam is a Bhranti, because certain aspects are not known, like you said, Satamsha is known and Chidamsha is not known, etc., because it's a partial knowledge, well, every Jnanam becomes invalid. Because you say Paroksha Jnanam is invalid, Paroksha Jnanam of Brahman is invalid because Sadamsha is known, Chidamsha is not known. So partially known and partially not known. And therefore it is Brahma. Then every branch of knowledge will be definitely is a Brahma only. So scientists study, well, basically several things. It's not a Brahma. It's actually they have incomplete information and they are improving upon. So here he gives not, but he says Gata Jnanam Brahmo Bhavet. If you say like this, Gata Jnanam, because you know Gata, pot also partially. You don't know pot. No one knows pot, including scientists doesn't know pot completely at this moment, I am telling you. And therefore, ultimately you go deep into that, you definitely get you get more areas of ignorance rather than, areas of knowledge. So, most fundamental knowledge also is still incomplete, and therefore Gata Jnanam itself becomes a Brahma, etc. So, that is not possible. So we are sorry. We are not able to accept your fourth argument against Paroksha Jnanam. You say Paroksha Jnanam is Brahma because it is incomplete knowledge. Because Sadamsha only is known, because he says Asti, Brahma Asti. Means Sadamsha only is known, but Chidamsha is not known, etc., etc. Well, and therefore it is Brahma, etc. We can't accept. Okay, this topic is over, right? Then in second line, some Purupakshi is waiting and he is more alert than even this previous fellow, really. He says, oh Vedantin, you are in trouble. You don't know, but you have landed yourself into a big trouble. He says, if Paroksha Jnanam is valid, right? Even though it is partial, it is valid. Means Sadamsha is known, Chidamsha is not known, which is Paroksha Jnanam, and still you call it as a Jnanam, not Brahma. Means you have accepted that in a Brahman there is a Sadamsha, and there is a Chidamsha, and there is Anandamsha, etc., etc. So by making this statement that Paroksha Jnanam is even though it is partial, it is Jnanam only, you have inadvertently agree that Brahman has got three amshas: Sadamsha, Chidamsha, and Anandamsha. And therefore Brahman is Savayavam, right? Brahman has avayavas, amsha, parts. And we agree with you, don't worry about it. You are going to say Brahman has no Sajati Veda. There is nothing like Brahman. Okay, very good. There is nothing which is of a Vijati Veda. There is nothing other which is of a different species other than Brahman, etc. Well, but there is an internal division. Swagat Bheda is there. Because you only are saying that Sadamsha is known by that person who has a Paroksha Jnanam, Chidamsha is not known, and Anandamsha is not known. Means you have accepted the amshas. Means in a one Brahman, there are amsha. Sadamsha, Chidamsha, and Anandamsha. So Swagat Bheda you are accepting. And therefore, if you are accepting a amsha, if Brahman is a Savayavam, Brahman is Anityam. Anything which has a parts falls apart. Right? That is what it is. So Brahma Anityam, Savayavatvat, Gatavat. Right? Therefore, ultimately, destruction of anything is just falling apart into components. That's all. And therefore, basically, Brahman becomes Anityam. And in your Upanishad, Brahman is been narrated as a Nityam. Nitya Sarvagatasthanu, Achaloyam Sanatana, etc. everywhere. So definitely, now before you leave this place, tell us, Brahman is Savayavam or Niravayavam? Either way you are in trouble. If you say Brahman is Niravayavam, then definitely you are not accepting any Amsha or Avayava in Brahman. Then in that case, Sadamsha is known, Chidamsha is not known by the particular person, a student, you should not accept. Means Paroksha Jnanam you should not accept. And means that Paroksha Jnanam is Brahma. So if you say Niravayavam, Paroksha Jnanam becomes Brahma. If you say Brahman is a Savayavam, then it contradicts Upanishad. All Upanishads. Because anything which has Avayava, well, becomes Anityam. Right? Falls apart. And therefore, if you say Brahman is Savayava, in order to prove Paroksha Jnanam is a Jnanam, then it contradicts Upanishad itself. Brahman becomes Anityam, which is not the case. Any Upanishad you open, at least Brahman is Nityam, you will find everywhere, right? So, before you leave this place, tell us, Brahman is Savayam or Niravayam? This is Vidyaranya, it is not that easy to defeat him. Vidyaranya says Brahman has three parts, Sat, Chit, Ananda. They are superimposed upon Brahman from the standpoint of world. Since world happens to be Mithya Asat, from Mithya standpoint we call Brahman the Adhishthanam as a Sat. And after negation of that Asat Prapancha, we need not say Brahman is Sat. We say Brahman. Okay? After negating basically Asat Prapancha, Mithya, world as a Mithya, you need not say Brahman is Sat, 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 etc. From the standpoint of world, we are saying Brahman is Sat in order to distinguish the Adhishthanam from this Adhyaropa, etc. So, well, and we can give an example. The word daytime is meaningless once you reach to the sun. Daytime is okay here because we have a night also. So in order to distinguish from the night, we use a daytime or day. But if you reach to a sun and still you say there is a daytime, well, that's meaningless. So from the standpoint of the earth, we have these words, day and night, etc. From the standpoint of the sun, day and night words are meaningless. From the standpoint of a world, we have asat, sat. Clear? And therefore mithya and satyam. Sat means satyam. Sadeva satyam. Sadeva idamagra asit. That sadeva satyam, Udalaka says. Sadeva satyam. Don't think this sad and satyam are different things. Satyam is an ontological word for this Brahman called Sat. And that shows a status of a reality. Satyam shows a status of a reality of the Brahman. Anyway, so, therefore, this Sat also we are saying that is superimposed from the standpoint of Jagat. Similarly, I see this Jagat, Jadam, and so to distinguish this Brahman from this, show the Vilakshanatvam of this Brahman from Jagat, we use Chit. To negate Jadatvam, we use Chit. To negate Asat, we use Sat. To negate Jadam, inertness, we use Chit, consciousness. And we see in world the Dukkham also. And so, and to negate that, we use Ananda, etc. So, since three aspects are to be negated, we use three words for this Brahman. So, that's what he says. Vyavartya amshatrayam. Vya plus V plus A plus Vrut dhatu is there. And it means to negate. Vyavartate means to negate. Vyavartyam, negatable. What is Vyavartam? Vyavartya amshatrayam. Negatable three amshas. Asat, Jadam and Dukkham. We have to negate that because we want to ascertain the nature of Brahman. So we have to negate these three things. And for that, we use, to negate Asat, we use Sat. To negate Jadam, we use Chit. To negate Dukkham, we use Ananda, etc. And therefore, really speaking, Brahman doesn't have any three amshas. So, three words we have used for Brahman in order to make it distinguish from this Jagat. So, from the standpoint of Jagat, we are using these three words. And therefore, once all the three are negated, this Sat, Chit, Ananda, these words also become irrelevant. They become irrelevant. Okay, then what is the Brahman? What will we call? Now Brahman is called by what? We have to wait up to Monday. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.